Good morning and welcome to the Morning Docket. I'm Angelica Spanos in for Jesse Weber this morning. We have a lot to get to today, including discussing two new verdicts and big breaking news overnight. The verdict is in the Rosenbaum's trial out of Georgia. Okay, so that is the judge reading the verdict there. It was a mixed verdict. There were 49 total counts for the couple that they faced, and a majority of them, they were found guilty. Attorney Terri Austin is here today to break this all down for us. We have a lot to unpack. Terri, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You heard the verdict. You've been following this as with us really for weeks here. What's the big takeaway from this?
The big takeaway is the fact that Jennifer was convicted of felony murder. So she was convicted of this aggravated assault to a child, which makes it a felony murder. That means she's going away either for life or she could be convicted to death. And her husband was convicted of second degree, so that's pretty high up as well. And he may be convicted between 10 to 30 years. So the jury came back and thought these two individuals did kill Layla.
And you've been following this with us, like I said, for weeks here at Law&Crime. Are you surprised by any of this?
I am not surprised. I think the most interesting point here is that on paper, these two defendants looked like they were great foster parents. But the reality is these children had multiple injuries, and the jury didn't believe that they were, as good as they thought they were on paper.
All right, well, directly after the verdict was announced and before the sentencing, we heard from 5 different witnesses from both the prosecution and the defense as the victim impact statements. We have Tess Daniel, who's Layla's biological mother. She was a witness on behalf of the state. Let's hear her victim impact statement. Okay, so that is Tessa Daniel, Layla's biological mother. Obviously very emotional there. And also when the verdict was read, we saw her crying on the shoulder of a court worker in the court. Terri, this is the biological mother. We saw her testify. We've seen her several times throughout this whole trial, obviously completely distraught by all of this. Are you what's your reaction to her statement there?
She is a very good witness here because she is the biological mother. And even though she didn't take care of her children because she was on drugs, and so it was determined that she wasn't responsible, she probably obviously would have been better because her children Layla would still be alive today. So it's a very sad situation.
All right, and moving on, we have another witness that was on behalf of the state. This is Millie's adoptive mother. Let's listen to her victim impact statement. Okay, so again, you heard Amanda Harold, that's Millie's adoptive mother, and the last thing she said there in that clip was that she asks for max. So when we have these victim impact statements, Terri, how does that play into sentencing here? Obviously, these ones emotional, and these are people very close and connected to the victim here.
That's right, and the jury is listening to what these witnesses are saying. And here you have the adoptive mother. She adopted Millie, and she's seeing what Millie is going through, not having her sister Layla, and the impact that could have on Millie, frankly. And the jury is listening to what she's saying and thinking, okay, we need to put these defendants away.
And as far as these being witnesses from the state side, we're also going to hear from the defense's side. So I don't want to touch on those yet because we're going to play some of those. But why would the prosecution pick these people?
I think what you said earlier, Angelica, the fact that these individuals are the closest to the victims, and the jury is going to take their testimony very seriously because they know what happened.
All right, Terri, thank you so much. We're going to take a break right now on Law&Crime. Stay with us, though. We'll continue to talk about the Rosenbaum trial and this verdict after the break. So Joseph Rosenbaum's parents, they're basically begging for leniency. And I thought one of the interesting things about this was his dad. His dad almost blamed the biological mother. He mentioned her struggle with drugs and alcohol. And he said if she had responsibility to begin with, maybe this would have happened. Terri, I don't know. When I hear that, it's kind of outrageous for him to get up there and say that.
I agree with you 100%. They have not taken responsibility for their son's actions. And they are saying things like it was the biological mom's fault. The mother even said, I don't care what you think, this was an accident. The jury did not think this was an accident. So I don't these statements are going to help very much as far as the defense is concerned.
All right. And after this, the prosecution and defense said a few things each before the judge ended up sentencing the Rosenbaums. So let's walk you through this and play that for you. Okay, so that was both of the attorneys basically asking for what they want. I'm going to tell you what ended up happening. Jennifer Rosenbaum, is sentenced to life in prison plus 40 years. Joseph Rosenbaum is sentenced to 50 years with 30 years to be served in prison. That was the final sentencing there. The judge addressed the court after reading that sentencing. Let's listen to what he said next. Okay, so that was the judge addressing the court. Again, that was after the sentencing. Both of them are going to be spending a lot of time in jail here, Terri. What are your thoughts? What's your immediate reaction to this sentencing?
Wow, wow, wow. The judge really threw the book at both of the Rosenbaums. And it's interesting because they had different, as you said earlier, counts that they were found guilty of. And the judge could have said that some of these counts could be served concurrently, but instead he made them consecutive. So life plus 40 for Jennifer, that's a long time.
And that's adding more years to all of this, making it potentially more harsh, I guess.
Well, it means that she's never getting out of jail, because life, obviously, she will die in jail, and plus 40 is just sort of making a statement. And then the same as far as Joseph is concerned. He got the maximum. He will be in jail for 30 years. So it was interesting listening to the judge. It had a profound effect on him as well.
And when you look at the counts, as we said, I think we said there were 49 of them, so that's a lot of counts to go through. Some of them were guilty, some of them were not guilty. One of the big ones that wasn't guilty was actually the malice murder count for Jennifer. But obviously, she still was found guilty on some of the other large ones. So how does that kind of play, even though that big one wasn't guilty, but the others were?
I think the jury was looking at what happened to little Layla and all of the aggravated assault to a child over the course of the years. The jury found that that was what happened in reality, and they found her guilty of that. So the felony murder is what they ultimately convicted her of.
And, okay, we have to take a quick break on Law and Crime. When we come back, we'll continue to break all of this down, so stay with us.